I'm going to go ahead and find my little thing that I have to read. There it is, I think. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And there are some standard announcements that I make at the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and read those. Mental Health Board, who we are. The Sonoma County Mental Health Board is an advisory board empowered to listen to the concerns of our constituents and to help formulate policies that offer a consistent continuum of care for all those with mental health challenges. We are further empowered to advise the County Board of Supervisors on the mental health system of care. Our mission. The Mental Health Board acts as a community focal point for mental health issues and advocates for the development of a community network to promote the following: coalition building that will create a unified voice to impact public policy and awareness, a wider understanding and knowledge of mental health issues, the integrity of mental health services, involvement of clients and families in mental health planning. Our vision. The Sonoma County Mental Health Board collaborates with the Mental Health Services Division of the Sonoma County Department of Health Services to increase public and professional awareness of persons with mental health challenges and to help eliminate the stigma attached to those mental illnesses. We strive to positively impact the mental health system by listening to public input and working with mental health services to create policy that will offer hope to families and individuals living with mental illness. So I'm going to do the roll call. Fran Adams.
Here.
Bob Cobb.
Here.
Peterson Pierre. Kathy Smith. Myself, yes. Marianne Swanson.
Here.
Sherry Wires. Patricia Gray. Peter McElweeny. Bob Hales.
Here.
Carol West.
Yeah.
Becky Ennis.
Present.
Betsy Chavez. Michael Johnson. Shannon Barton Wren. And Maria Oregon. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 8 is a quorum, so we don't quite have a quorum unless somebody's hiding over in the participant list. So
I do know that Peter was excused.
okay. Yeah, it's just that I'll write excused by his name, but unless we get one more person, we're not going to be able to have those votes. So
Okay.
just Tori, if you can kind of watch to see if somebody else pops up over on
I
the
will
other
do.
side. Okay, so let's go ahead and Kate, is Kate Robert there?
Yes, she is.
Okay, Kate, did you have a report from consumers? See her.
She's promoted over. Is she muted?
I don't know.
And she's able to talk.
Kate, can you hear us? Okay. Well, we'll come back to her when we figure out why we can't hear her. So,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me on.
Okay. So do you have a report for us?
You know, I don't. I thought I'd just leave that time for more public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then public comment we shall do. So, is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment before we go on?
Is this the like big time for public comment?
This is we have a public comment time at the beginning where people can state their comment for 3 minutes.
But do we have a part for commenting on the MHSA funding? Is that coming later or?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Kathy, this is Carol. I'm obviously on the mental health board, so I will defer if there is anyone else who'd like to speak, but I do have an issue that I'd like to raise.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's about AB 1976. It's the legislation that was passed that will remove the sunset clause for Laura's Law. And it will require counties, in effect, to support assisted outpatient treatment unless we opt out. So just to put it on the radar of the Mental Health Board, and perhaps to ask Bill what the process will be in terms of decision making and how we can get consumer or stakeholder input into that process.
And do you know when the opt-out
Um,
time is?
I'm not sure. I think the decision has to be made by the 1st of July, 2021.
Okay, so we do have some time, it looks like.
We do. We have 6 months.
I appreciate that you're always watching. Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody else with
Kathy,
comments.
sorry, this is Becky. I'm just letting you know that Betsy is running late, but she will be here.
Okay. Perfect.
Kathy, do we have a parking lot so that things like what Carol just talked about don't get lost and we don't forget a few months from now?
Yeah, I was
I
also.
don't know- I don't know that we have an official parking lot, but I know that Carol's going to remember.
I won't forget, but I was also hoping perhaps that Bill, either now or when it's your turn to talk to kind of let us know.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just what Carol said tonight. It's just kind of ongoing. We should have some place to put things that we don't lose track of them.
So we could put them into the agenda. So maybe under other reports, I don't know.
Don't have to answer that right now, but just think about it.
Right, but that's, maybe that's something that we just put, Carol can keep us updated on legislative issues because she's really good at watching them. Okay, so
Kathy, sorry, there is one participant that would like to make a comment, Michael Reynolds.
okay.
Hello, yeah, this is Michael from West County Community Services, Peer Programs Coordinator. Just wanted to give you updates on what's going on at the centers this month. Interlink did hold an outdoor art group last month, which was great. Many members who are not able to participate in the Zoom groups showed up and were able to do the socially distanced art group. We're also continuing to offer the charging stations so folks can stay in touch with their providers as well as their family members and other support systems, and offering a Zoom support group for those who are not familiar with Zoom to help learn how to navigate the platform so they can be more participatory in other programs as well. Wellness is still doing showers. They've just launched a couple new Zoom groups, anger management and mindfulness. Also have several new hires there with we've gotten back the workforce training program. So working with some interns, helping them get some job skills and training as well in the peer world. Petaluma Peer Recovery Center just hired their new assistant manager, and they're preparing to start offering Zoom groups down there as well to the community. And the EC, Michael Martin is working in the Navigation Center, which is now the winter shelter. So he's helping to provide services there, member support, peer support, and also looking at doing an on-site art group there and getting also a shuttle going for a few folks to come out to the EC and be able to get them out of the shelter for a while and into a peer environment. With the rains, it's been pretty minimal so far, but even with what we've had with the cold, we are seeing a higher demand of people wanting services coming in just to talk. They're continuing to ask when we open, and we know that's beyond anyone's control, but they are continuing to express their appreciation for the services that we are providing and being able to be there and even, just provide peer support in the parking lot if that's what we can do that day. So anyway, that's what's up this month at the peer centers. And just again, as always, thank you all so much for your work for the peers and all the mental and behavioral health needs in the county. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, was there any other public comment?
I don't see any other hands at this time.
Okay, so Betsy is here, and if you don't mind, Melissa, if we can just readdress approval of the minutes from November 17th, if people have had a chance to look at those. So, Bob, I think you said that you moved to approve the minutes. You're muted.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I thought that's what you said.
You're great lip reader.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so those minutes are approved.
Hey, can we
Okay.
get at some point a Bob A and a Bob B so we know which Bob we're talking about? I'm just curious.
Or a Bob C and a Bob H might be
Oh, yeah.
more
That's
intuitive.
too obvious, Bob. That's too obvious. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at their faces, so I know who's talking, but that makes sense. Okay, so Melissa, I'm going to let you take over.
Kathy, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you let me share, Tori? Okay, are you seeing it?
Not yet.
No.
Are you seeing it now? Yes, it looks like I'm sharing.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to say welcome. And I'm Melissa Ladresch with the Department of Health Services Behavioral Health Division, and I'm the Mental Health Services Act Coordinator. I want to first say thank you to the Mental Health Board for hosting the public hearing tonight, and thank you for everyone else that's here for participating. Tonight, I'm going to review and provide the Mental Health Board. I'm going to review and provide information about the MHSA expenditure plan and 4 innovation proposals that we are putting out to the group today. And we're also here for the Mental Health Board to hear the public feedback in the public comments that we'll have at the end of my presentation. The plans and the expenditure plan update and the 4 innovation projects were posted on November 13th, and the regulation requires that we have at least 30 days of a public review period prior to the public hearing. So we've exceeded that time period, and we let many people know about this public hearing and what the expenditure plan update and the 4 innovation proposals were. Our distribution included emails to anyone who signed up to receive MHSA updates. So that's a list that's just shy of 3,000 email addresses. We sent emails to mental health services contractors, our staff, the Mental Health Services Act Steering Committee, and stakeholder committees. And it's posted on our website as well. So we gave it a wide distribution. And any comments that people have tonight or questions are going to be directed to the Mental Health Board. I will take my cues from the board chair, Kathy, and you will have an opportunity to address the Mental Health Board at the end of the presentation during the comment period. We will be taking notes on the comments, and the Mental Health Board notes are posted on the website as well. And any substantive comments or recommendations to the expenditure plan or innovation projects will be incorporated into either the plan or the projects. And thank you again for being here tonight. Here's our agenda. I've got one slide to remind people what the basics are on Mental Health Services Act. Then I'll talk about the budget update and the impacts on the Mental Health Services Act expenditure plan. Then I'll provide an update on the innovation proposals, that includes the community program planning process, and an overview of the 4 innovation proposals. And then we'll have the public comment. So Mental Health Services Act basics. In 2004, we Californians in November of 2004 voted to approve Proposition 63. And that started a 1% tax on people that made an income that's over $1 million annually. And the way that Mental Health Services Act was written is that it has 5 components. And we receive funds from the state on a monthly basis based on that tax revenue. We're getting annually, we get in somewhere between $23,000, $24,000 a year, or excuse me, $24 million a year. Big difference there. And we have to take the monies and put them into one of 5 components. So there's community services and support, which is by far the largest component, and 76% of the funds go there. 19% of the funds go into prevention and early intervention, and 5% go into innovation. So that's where the proposals that I'll be talking about are for that 5% of funds. And then we have an option to take money from the big pot of money, the community services and supports, and transfer that into workforce education and training, as well as capital facilities and technology needs. And we can transfer up to 20% of funds into that. There are also a lot of MHSA regulations, and they thankfully require this community program planning process where we really have stakeholders and community members provide a lot of input and design into what's going on. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the expenditure plan update, and I've included the link here. And I know, Tori, you have the PowerPoint, and I believe it'll be posted with this, with the minutes of the Mental Health Board. Is that correct?
I can post that with it.
Great. And here's a narrative of the budget changes that occurred. Kind of walk you through, I think everyone knows that we've had a very unusual year. And because of COVID-19, Sonoma County and the Department of Health Services budget process was delayed until September of this year. And there were budget shortfalls of roughly $32 million. And the department's required to submit a balanced budget to the Board of Supervisors. And so the department was asked to recommend decreases to the budget while maintaining all the mandatory essential services that we have to have. So the department indicated to the Board of Supervisors that funding for peer centers and Telecare Act would be eliminated if there wasn't any additional financial resources. And the department included a detailed summary of the anticipated impacts if the services were eliminated. The Board of Supervisors responded generously, granting additional local funding to continue peer services, Telecare Act, and they also expanded mental health mobile support team. The Board of Supervisors finalized the county budget, resulting in changes to our 2021 fiscal year expenditure plan. So the budget changes, overall, the MHSA funds that were budgeted for Telecare and peer services have been replaced with funding from the Board of Supervisors. And that started on October 1st, 2020. From July 1st through September, the peer services were funded by MHSA funds. The MHSA funds that became available due to the changes we made to the expenditure plan are being utilized on youth and adult medication support services, which are essential services. And so this gives you an idea of the changes with 1.4 million being directed to mental health services funds and the Board of Supervisors local funding supporting the peer services and Telecare Act. And then we have funds that are going to expand our mobile support team. So innovation update, and you'll see here, it's kind of a nice segue, just talking about mobile support team. So a little background, just a reminder, 5% of our MHSA funds are only for innovation. They have to go in that pot and they can only be spent on innovation projects. After 3 years, our MHSA dollars that we receive from the state, if we don't spend them, they expire and they revert back to the state. So it's really important that we keep on spending the funds. And our last innovation project was the mobile support team. And we had to stop funding it with innovation funds in 2018 because innovation projects have a maximum lifetime of 5 years. This particular project was very successful and we're continuing with other mental health services funds and additional funds. So we had to come up with new innovation projects. In July of last year, the innovation subcommittee of the MHSA steering committee was established, and the committee did a lot of work. Kathy Smith was one of the committee members. She can testify to that. And the community application was developed, as well as a scoring criteria and frequently asked questions. We held 5 public information meetings throughout the county, north, south, east, west, and in Santa Rosa. We received 16 applications from the community. And then we got together, the subcommittee got together, we read all of the proposals, we scored them independently, and then we came together and scored them. And there were 5 finalists that were the highest scoring proposals that we identified, and then brought that to the full steering committee and the department. Then we worked with the service providers of each of those projects, and to really get something bright and shiny that we could submit, because even though it's Sonoma County's money, we have to get permission and approval from the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. They have to say that it's okay for us to do this project. So we put together a draft. We sent the drafts to the OAC in March. We received them back. We received feedback and phone calls with them in September. And then we took into consideration the feedback they gave us, sent it back to them, received more feedback, and was able to finalize that in November. And then we were able to post the projects on November 13th, and in order to have this public hearing tonight. Here are links to the innovation proposals. They're again on our website. So if you want to look at them in detail, you're welcome to do that. They're somewhere between 25 and 45 pages, each one of them. And I'll just give you a brief summary. I've talked about these in other meetings, but the 4 that we have going forward are Early Learning Institute. This is Instructions Not Included is the name of this program. And it's a home visiting program for first-time fathers, and it screens for adverse childhood experiences and depression. And if they're noticing these things, they're going to provide the fathers with warm handoffs. And so the idea of this is that if dad's depressed or if dad's experienced ACEs, he's just not going to be there for the child. there may be additional ACEs for the child, and he won't be able to have that enriched relationship with the child if those two things are in the way. First Five with Sonoma County is their program is New Parent TLC. And this is a really interesting program. It's very different from Instructions Not Included that's doing this home visiting or Zoom visiting program. This is going out to the community that would be around new moms. So it might be moms groups, it might be caregivers for children, for infants. And they're going to train all these people that might be seeing new moms and dads. What are the signs and symptoms of postpartum depression in general, suicidality, and then teach them how to have a conversation with that parent and provide that parent referrals that can help them and even follow up. So maybe they see mom or dad next week and they're like, wow, were you able to give so-and-so a call and how are you doing? And so giving all those the gatekeepers, the tools they need to do that. And the idea is we really want to reduce postpartum depression and or suicide by parents and reduce the exposure of infants to ACEs resulting from that parental depression. The next one is with On the Move and Voices in conjunction with La Plaza Humanidad, Latino Service Providers, Raises Collective, and North Bay Organizing Project. And they're proposing a social innovation lab that they're calling Nuestra Cultura Cura. And this is going to be this partnership of all these different community organizations to engage a diverse cohort from the Latinx communities to determine what are the root causes of mental health stigma and the inaccessibility for their communities to access mental health services. And they'll have a facilitator supporting the team in determining which direction they're going to go, what specific actions they're going to take. And this is an area that we've been working on at Sonoma County Behavioral Health for years. We've had what the state refers to as a low penetration rate with our Latino community. And so we'd really like to make our services more attractive and available to the Latino community. And the fourth project is with Sonoma County Human Services Department, their Adult and Aging, and Santa Rosa Community Health. This is, the name of the project is Collaborative Care Enhanced Recovery Project. So CERP is what we call it for short. And it's advancing older adult depression extended support services. So this is taking an established short-term 12-week intervention. They're extending it with 9 months of in-home case management outcomes.
Se va a aprender eso.
For adults from 50 years old to 64 years old that are experiencing depression. So this is a project. And the next step, so tonight we're here doing the public hearing hosted by the Mental Health Board. And after tonight, the next step is to get the approval, the review from the Board of Supervisors. So we're set to do that on January 25th. We put together a board item. After we receive approval, hopefully we will, from the Board of Supervisors, I'm pretty sure, I'm feeling confident about it. Then we'll send it on to the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission in Sacramento for review and approval. You can see I've got my fingers crossed right there because they turned some proposals down. So we're really hopeful that we will get their approval, and we worked carefully with the OAC to listen to their feedback and incorporate it to give these proposals a really strong chance. Plus, as you saw with the community program planning process that we use, these ideas came from the community. So we feel really, really hopeful that this will happen. And then once the OAC approves the proposals, we'll develop the contracts or MOUs with the provider, and then we'll implement innovation projects. So it may take a few more months. If in January, the Board of Supervisors are looking at it, the OAC will probably receive it maybe the beginning of February. And it might take them a few months to give us approval, and then we'd be able to develop contracts and implement. All right, this is now we've come to the public comment period, and I will go ahead and time the public comments. Each person can have 3 minutes maximum for their comment. And Tori has a list of I think 4 individuals that signed up earlier to make a comment, and the names, she'll call the names out to make a comment. Then if you like to make a comment and you haven't signed up, go ahead, enter your name into the chat box, and your name will be put on that list as well, and Tori will call that out. And then for those of you that have called in and would like to make a comment, Tori's going to unmute everyone for a couple of minutes, and you can provide us with your name, and she'll put that on the list, and then your name will be called.
Okay, so the first one we have is Michelle Rogers. Just have to find her. Hold on one moment. Okay, Michelle.
There we go. Hello, my name is Michelle Rogers. I'm the executive director of the Early Learning Institute, and we submitted instructions not included. This is our paternal project focused on new fathers in our community with an eye towards reducing paternal postpartum depression, which is fairly new in the concept of looking at what happens to new dads in the first year of their baby's life, as well as ACEs screening that's included for the family. And interestingly enough, our California Surgeon General was talking about intergenerational transmission of ACEs this week in the California plan, without actually mentioning anything that targets dads. So we feel very strongly that this is a needed innovation project. The other thing that we are attempting with this project is we will be developing a screening tool specifically designed to capture male postpartum depression signs and symptoms. Most of the screening tools that we have were developed and normed and standardized on women. And the terminology, are you crying more than you typically would be, does not really apply to many of our new dads. And so we're excited about this project. We are in the long haul. We are so appreciative of Melissa and Julie and their team, because they've really, really gone to bat for all of us. And it's been, I think we're looking at 14 months now of this process. And they keep saying to us, it'll be fine, we're gonna get there. So I wanna offer my thanks and appreciation in this setting. I'm available for questions should there be any. Thank you very much.
Okay, next one is Sean Boland.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Sean Boland. I'm the program manager of the Wellness and Advocacy Center. I've been really thinking about what I want to say about this expenditure plan, and I don't have much. I guess I'm not surprised that peer centers were cut again. I'm heartened that we're still here offering the services that we do offer. And I'm actually very concerned about the future. MHSA money is arreared. So in theory, next year, MHSA funds should not be affected that much. But when the county asked for a budget cut, they don't specify the funding source. And so whether it be a general fund reduction or an MHSA reduction doesn't matter. So in the end, the Sonoma County Behavioral Health actually came out ahead in this budget round. Centers were proposed to be cut. We're still here. Med services got an extra $1.4 million. I am concerned about the future of these centers though. And just if there's any plans realistically to continue stable funding for these centers, or if in 6 months we're in the same place. So thank you.
Okay, the next one we have is Kate Roberge.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, there's a slight chance I may disappear. I already disappeared once, so my computer did shut down once already. I'm Kate Roberge, and I'm with West County Community Services. I'm the Peer Education and Outreach Program Manager. And I want to say, first of all, that I'm really grateful, given our history, even to be funded, for the 2021 year, because I know how close it's been all these times. And I know that, pretty much everyone here understands the importance and impact of peer services, on our community, and that the MHSA funding is vital for that to continue. And you already know, whatever I said at this point about that would be preaching to the choir. The county has saved us 2 years in a row, but sort of like Sean was saying, I fear for the future. So I thought what I'd do today is use what I think of as a new talking point when we're trying to save peer support. And when, all the programs, everybody seems to be shutting us down. And that is this additional talking point. Yes, we're doing good, wonderful, in fact, services and all those things. But another thing to think about is that these programs, which are threatened yearly, were developed over decades of work. We helped each other build these centers with difficulty, rough spots, and hope for a more recovery-oriented community. We wanted all peers. Our intention was to improve the life of all peers. We have helped keep hope alive for thousands of people with mental health challenges through these programs, and we have kept hope alive for each other while year after year, when our elimination appeared to be a done deal. So here's what I wanted to say as a talking point. Peer programs are not gas stations. You can't tear one down and then build a new one, a new ARCO or a Shell station over the old one in a couple of years. Once our peer programs are eliminated, they are gone. It will take decades to rebuild them, just as it took decades for them to take shape. The trust will be gone. The years of hard-won wisdom and skill and knowledge will be gone. The peer community built around the centers will be gone. And the heart of our peer community will be gone for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one other person that has requested to speak, and that is Sean Kelson, but I am not seeing Sean in the attendees. Oh, there he is. Hold on.
Yay. Hi, everybody. If you can hear me. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Sean Kelson. I'm the program manager with West County Community Services. I manage Interlink Self-Help Center and the Petaluma Peer Recovery Program. I'm thrilled to announce that we have a new assistant manager at PPRC, another graduate of the Peer Support Specialist Certification Program that Kate oversees. That is, an amazing program that is part of this great infrastructure that we've developed that Kate was just speaking about. Yeah, we're thrilled to have him on board and expect to have our new PPRC's Zoom schedule out in the next couple of weeks. We continue to provide warm line services and want to thank the support of the Mental Health Board, Board of Supervisors, including the Sonoma County, the Board of Supervisors, Sonoma County, including the Sonoma County and Board of I'm sorry. I just had a bunch of dental work done and I have gauze out of my mouth for the first time since yesterday. Yeah, and thanks for the Board of Supervisors Gold Resolution, recognizing the third Thursday in October as Peer Support Celebration Day in Sonoma County. And thanks to the Peer Council for spearheading this and all the important work that's being done. I want to thank you for all your support and hope we can continue to support each other and move forward in a ways that are effective and build upon this infrastructure of peer services that we've created over these years. Thank you.
Ray, Michael Johnson has something he wanted to ask Melissa.
Hey, Melissa. I just had a quick question about the mobile services team. You said you were looking to expand it, and I was wondering if you knew about when that expansion would start to roll out. I think a lot of people are really looking forward to programs like that right now.
I'm going to let Bill Carter answer that question.
So we just have the positions approved. So that's going to be a two-step process, by the way. So we just had the new positions approved, and so we will begin. So recruitment is in process now. So once those positions are filled, we'll train folks and begin to expand to the North County and add Saturday and Sunday shifts to the schedule. I would guess February roughly is usually would take us that long to identify people in a recruitment. So February, March is when I'd expect to know, either be expanding or know exactly when we expand. And then, the supervisors also asked us to ask the county to take a look at modifying the model. And so that project's been assigned to the EMS ad hoc committee of the county. And so they are, they're working on that.
This is Carol. I had a question for Bill. Do you know if the EMS group is working in conjunction with the Santa Rosa Police Department that are also moving forward with a similar model?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of information about the work they've done to date. I've spoken with them and talked with them, shared with them, excuse me, my thoughts about what I know about the Cahoots model and other models and what would be a benefit, what we should consider looking at in terms of creating a stronger program here. And part of that discussion has been looking for a way to integrate our efforts with Santa Rosa's efforts and the efforts of other cities. So Healdsburg is also hiring a social worker to join their police department. And I don't have specifics, but I've seen in the paper that Roner Park and others may be doing their own, making their own additions as well.
Thank you.
Kathy, I'd like to ask a question if that's okay. Or I guess if this is an appropriate time, if public comment is over.
So are you, excuse me, are you asking a question about Melissa's presentation?
Yes.
Okay, this is an appropriate time to do that.
Okay, thanks. Melissa, you said that the OAC were not approving some of these applications, and I'm just curious why they weren't, or what were the criteria that they were denying those applications around?
You and many others across the state are wondering that. It's really interesting. Their primary purpose is, one of the primary purposes is to look at innovation projects. And initially, like the MST program didn't have to go in front of them to get approved at that time, but now they're having, it used to be you had to go to Sacramento and get your whole team together and do a presentation for them. And they look at different things. They want to make sure that there was extensive community program planning. So we've done that. So we've worked with the staff on getting feedback on the proposals that we've incorporated. And most of that's around making sure that it meets the innovation requirements, that the program's truly innovative, and that it presents all the information that the commissioners are going to look at when they see it. And some of the things that that they have found flaw with or decided not to approve. In some cases, they think that this project, even though it is innovative, it's not a good use of innovation funds. And some of the other counties, I meet with all the other MHSA coordinators monthly. There's a lot of frustration because if Sonoma County our community program planning process has said this is an important and significant need in our county, and prove that, you know, have the literature in the write-up to substantiate that, and have done focus groups with stakeholders that are involved. So there's been some frustration, and it's challenging. And we're actually the California Behavioral Health Directors Association is working with the MHSA coordinators and the behavioral health directors to kind of talk to the commissioners about having more reasonable and consistent standards. And sometimes it's the commissioners are made up of different, there's medical professionals, there's teaching professionals, there's human services, there's peer providers. So a huge range, family members of people that are involved. And sometimes they're looking for their particular interest group. So there's a lot of discussion going on right now about it.
Thank you. If this was an area that the mental health board wanted to advocate in, would that be helpful, appropriate, or needed, etc.?
If the mental health board wants to give us a letter of recommendation for the projects, I think that could be helpful. I mean, it just speaks to the community support for the project. Betsy, you're muted.
Yeah, I just came back. Sorry, my internet went out.
Thanks, Melissa.
I have a question, Melissa. You mentioned 5 projects were approved by the committee, and 4 of them went through tonight's hearing. Excuse me, if I remember right, the 5th one was youth, and it was in collaboration with an already in process program. So I'm not remembering details of that, but would it be appropriate to just remind people what that was?
Absolutely, and it was on my slides and I just glossed over, so my apologies for that. We're really excited about that project. It's called the Early Psychosis Learning Healthcare Network, and it's a multi-county project because the OAC that I've just talked about, the group in Sacramento that looks over all these innovation projects, they wanted to stop things like, oh, there's been this miraculous innovation program in Riverside County or in Irvine. And instead, like, have in the future, I think there's going to be many more multi-county projects so that it's not something that's unique to that particular county, but we're able to reproduce that and really provide excellent things. So this one, Buckaloo and Aldea are the contractors involved. And we're also working with UC Davis. They're the ones that they've invented an app for the phone, and they're tracking. And so this is young folks between 12 and 30 years old that are having their first symptoms of psychosis. And it's a wraparound program with peer providers, with family peer providers. So parents of kids that have experienced first episode psychosis are also involved. And it's really kind of wrapping around resources and treatment for these kids. And the particular innovation project is really funding, tracking all of this, and getting the all the data from the different organizations and seeing what's effective and what's not, so that we can really kind of be able to implement effective programs for youth that are experiencing early psychosis. Because oftentimes, as I think we know, psychosis is very, it's alarming and difficult to go through those symptoms. And sometimes what we see, especially in the TAE-aged youth, is that they look at substance use, or they get really discouraged and sort of feel hopeless. And if we can kind of get them going right early on, we can kind of help them, achieve whatever goals they have for schooling, for college, for employment, for partners, all of that kind of stuff. So it's an exciting program. And the process that we're in right now is we have a contract with UC Davis that we're putting through our contracts department through CBID. And we've almost finalized the draft contract for Buckaloo. So we're getting there. I'm hopeful that we'll implement either in January or February. And the reason that one got approved in June was because it was part of this multi-county project. And so we were just an appendix to the project.
So it didn't have to go through this hearing.
Well, we still had to get approved and it went to the board, but it was easy for them to approve it because they already thought this was a good idea. And we were just one more county doing the same thing.
Okay. So were there any more questions or comments? Tori, do you see anybody?
I do not see any other hands.
Okay. Thank you very much, Melissa.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem. Okay, so Bill, do you have anything more that you want to do in the terms of director's report?
The other issue that's I know is on people's minds right now is Measure O.
Yes.
And Measure O planning. So I don't have any specific information right now. Because this was a ballot measure, it comes with many legal parameters, and so this the first steps of this effort are handled out of the Board of Supervisors and the CAO's office, and so they are preparing guidance to give us and others who will work on the implementation of Measure O. One of the ways I've been looking at this is to recall the expenditure report. The projects in the expenditure report seem to break down into three categories by my way of thinking. One is those things for which Measure O provides funding that are already operating. So these are things like the CSU, hospitalization costs, residential care facility costs. So these are items that won't have a lot of planning or discussion. And it'll be the responsibility of the department and the county to communicate to everyone about those funds and how they're being used. And that will be part of what is overseen by the oversight committee, the Measure O oversight committee. After that, there's a set of projects that are somewhat defined, but they're not operating, so they will require planning. Common sense tells me this would be the place to start the priority projects because we know what they are, and we should engage in the planning necessary to get them up and running. So examples of that are SUD system expansion and the CAPE program, so the crisis response to the school system. So I will expect that there will be planning processes with key stakeholders for those projects as well. And then lastly, there's a set of areas that are just priority areas. There really are not even projects yet that are described. And I suspect that the county is going to have to take a look at each of them and create a unique planning and development process because they're so different. So it's things like transitional housing. We know we need transitional housing and housing pool services for homeless individuals. Money is set aside for those activities, but those activities aren't defined, and the county will be starting from scratch with those, and they're very different projects. So as I said, I would expect that the county will outline different project planning and development processes for each of them. But again, I'm just guessing at this point because we don't have the go-ahead to move any of these forward at this point. Yeah, Carol.
In which category does the psychiatric health facility fall?
So I've already had an argument with someone about that. I considered that internally an argument. I thought that was a project that was so well planned it would be in the first category because we know what psychiatric health facilities are. We know how they operate. There's not a lot of latitude about that. But the other opinion is it's a new service. It's not one that's existed here before, and we should treat it as such. So I don't think we know unless someone sees this in a way I can't see it. The PUF is pretty much hardwired. I mean, it is a program that has its costs. It has a contractor. There's a giant need for it that's clearly defined. There's not a lot of movement, I don't think, to design it. But I'm open to input from other folks. Are there any other questions about Measure O or thoughts about Measure O? Carol asked the question at the beginning of the meeting about the county stance regarding AB 1976. So as she said, this changes the Laura's Law legislation from an opt-in. So prior to next July, counties were required to decide if they wanted to do it and say so. And so when a county didn't want to do it, they would just be silent. This legislation switches this. It's legislation that's designed to encourage more counties to do it. And so the approach they've taken is to say you need to actively opt out. So if you're not doing it, by July 1st, you either need to say you're going to continue to not do it via a board resolution, or if you're silent about it, the state will assume you are implementing a Laura's Law program and proceed accordingly. This is new relatively newly signed legislation. And so the process I'm pursuing and would normally pursue in this is I will talk with the agency or the department director about this. Because it's a legislative matter, it will move from the department head level to the CAO's office and the Board of Supervisors for, in that process, we would take our recommendations and information and look for direction from the county about what to do next. If the question, one of the questions you had, Carol, was, I'm sorry, do you have a question now?
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming that board means Board of Supervisors, not Mental Health Board.
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of input and impact, is there a process for stakeholder input in terms of agencies that perhaps will be affected and the consumers themselves that will be affected?
So as I said, this is a new item. So I would say it's not fully, our response is not fully developed. Right now, there's nothing in the process that would allow for input about whether to opt in or opt out. Legislation requires that if you opt in, you have to engage in a public process by which you inform the community and accept input. So if we were to opt in, it's currently a requirement that we would have public conversations about this. And as you know, the Mental Health Board is one of our primary vehicles for doing that. It might not be the only one, but if we did that. And so the only problem I would see is if folks wanted us to opt in and the county was deciding to opt out. And again, I don't know yet where the county is going to lean.
Would you at some point be able to, in the next 6 months, during the time frame that we have to make this decision, be able to give us the thought process that the county is going through in terms of service provision and costs involved, just so that we are informed and keep this on our agenda and allow for a feedback loop to occur?
Yes. As I said, right now it's pretty much just one of those legislative work projects, and I'm going to go talk to the people I talked to in the county about that and look for direction from them after I offer them information and recommendations.
Right. And I guess in the same vein, I know that's not part of tonight's discussion, but the peer certification SB 803, that's the opposite. If the county wants to move forward, we have to opt in rather than opt out. And my understanding is that the opting in and out also has implications for federal funding, that if the county is required to do something, that there is federal funding attached to it. And if you opt out, that there is not. So is there funding attached to this piece of legislation, the AB 1976, since they are same?
No, one of the, if you make a list of pros and cons for Laura's law, in the list of cons would be, it comes with no funding.
Okay.
So it comes with an increase in costs for behavioral health programs, housing programs, the courts, the DA, public defender, all of those parts of our system would have to create resources to run the program. So one reason why it hasn't been, one of a couple of reasons why it hasn't been implemented across the state is that it comes at a cost with no money. And I believe that the issue here is a state mandate. So SB 90 is a state requirement that if the state requires anything, it's in legislation, the state requires anything, the state has to pay for it. The state can't require something and then make a county pay for it.
Okay, so that's not quite the same as opting in and out. Okay, I got that. Thanks.
Well, no, you're right. So the reason legislatively people will say we want to do opt-ins or opt-out is they're trying to avoid triggering a mandate. So that's a legislative strategy. If a legislator says you've got to do it, then it's a much harder piece of legislation to get through because you've got to find money in the budget for it and get the votes for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions for, oh, I see. Any more questions for Bill? And then Mary Frances wants to ask Melissa a question if she's still there.
Thank you. Melissa, are you still there? Maybe not. Oh,
yep.
Hi, Melissa. I'm sorry, I wasn't fast enough on the draw for this, but here's my question. So there are 4 projects that you're going to present to MHOAC. Do you rank them in any way? Does the county have the opportunity to rank by preference? And is the amount of money that would go into the total basket for innovation projects enough to cover all 4? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'll answer your last question first. So yes, we have funds to do that, and through the life of the projects, because we've been getting money in for innovation funds that we haven't been spending the last 2 fiscal years. So we actually have money in the bank, and we're developing another project that's a diversion project as well, a housing project that the Shans and Kate Roberge and Julie have been talking about with us. So we have funds to do that. And in fact, if we don't get some of these projects approved this year, there's a potential to have funds revert on July 1st. So we're pretty hopeful. We don't rank them. We'd like all of these projects. We would like to see them all go forward. And we're trying to give them the ability to do so. And, you know, some counties might go with a bigger project that was, you know, a $2 million project, and we chose to let the community decide. So the community came in with the dollar amounts that they were looking for, for the different projects that they were using. But we're hopeful, fingers crossed, that all of these projects get approved.
Okay, great. Thank you. I was amazed to see, I think for the county of Santa Clara, which is a much bigger county, but they approved something close to 1.5 million, maybe more, I don't know, for creating and expanding a mobile support team, which does not use law enforcement. So I thought, wow, you know, maybe they're just getting that much money because of the size of their population. We're much smaller, you know, but.
Yeah, Santa Clara does get quite a bit more. So you figure 5% of their amount. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Over double our size. So they're probably getting somewhere 50 to 70 million a year in
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question, Kathy.
Okay, go ahead, Betsy.
So sorry, I've been in and out. It's been a crazy night. But Melissa and I may have not caught this, but specific to the Youth Truth Data Survey answers that were received by the 5,000 participants in Sonoma County, being that the top concern was anxiety about the future of our students. And I know many students within this this data survey or the survey, what transpired is that students are asking for more mental health support. So I'm wondering, out of these 4 or 5 applicants that you received, is there one specific to students? And if not, I'd like to see how we can work with this data and address funding for students and mental health.
When did the study come out, the Youth Truth?
It just came out, and it presented at the Cradle to Career last, I think, a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there was 71% of our students are saying that they're facing anxiety. So this is concerning, and they are asking for more mental health support. So it may be a bit premature here, but I do think that this is worth looking into. And
I would really appreciate it if you could forward that to me.
Of course.
That would be great. And then, it's something that potentially I can bring it to the division management team. Maybe CAPE can address some of that. I know that CAPE in the past had done some educational things around suicide prevention, but they could also do some on resilience or how to manage things like when you're feeling anxious or having other mental health concerns. So that could be something that potentially could be addressed. And it's data I'd love to have going forward. Eventually we'll need new innovation projects, and maybe that's something we can think about. But for these 16 projects, we didn't get anything from the school systems. Nothing from the education or supporters of educational mental health education in schools. No one put a proposal forward for that.
Got it.
That was one of the 16.
And I guess this leads into my next question is how, because I think this is a bigger issue, but I do know that, there's nonprofit organizations that have more resources, right? So they may have a grant writer assigned for something like this. And there are those that don't have that. And so for those that are doing the work, are boots on the ground, but are not necessarily don't have what it takes to maybe make a compelling argument about funding their programming, I wonder what we can do to support, if there's anything that we can do to support. And also I do know that for Latino service providers, for example, they don't receive any MHSA funding, but they do have a student component program where they, so it's Promotores, the Promotores program, where they have mental health training for students, and students go out into community and back into their school community to inform and inform students about mental health and break the stigma. So I'm wondering, even how do we help organizations like those highlight their stories and receive funding, because it's evidently needed.
I'm going to answer your last part first again. For Latino service providers, they actually do receive prevention and early intervention monies from the county. We have had a contract with them for years.
They do, but not for the promotores.
Not for the promotores. They went to a different provider for that. They actually applied for a grant to do that work. But promotores programs are fantastic. I'd also love to see an adult promotores program in our community. And then tell me, so the other question was, how do we help our not-for-profits develop so that they can more effectively request funds from funders? So we did some of that work. I don't know if Julie Kawahara is still on the call or not, she was involved in a reducing disparities project where we worked with Latino service providers and a couple of Sonoma County Indian Health Project, as well as Community Baptist Church. And we really helped them kind of develop their infrastructure, and Latino service providers from that work was able to become a not-for-profit. One of the things that we did notice, Kathy, you can attest to this, is probably an area that could have used the most improvement on many of the innovation proposals that we saw, the 16 that came in, was this evaluation component. And more, I know for MHSA dollars, and I think for a lot of other grantors of funds, that ability to develop a good evaluation in a proposal is really important. And so what we've talked about is providing some technical assistance for that, and seeing if we can develop that within our community and supporting our not-for-profits in honing those skills.
That'd be great, just so that the greater community can receive, and I'm more I guess talking about our most resilient communities that are really needing support, especially after the pandemic and the fires and all that. So thank you for that.
Earl, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Something came across my desk today. It was an RFP from Cal Mesa looking for crisis counseling assistance and training programs. And they apparently have $26 million that they would like to put towards that. Is there any way that a county can partner with an agency like Cal Mesa? And because I do believe they have overseen other programs. In fact, were they not the ones that oversaw CAPE in the past, and involved with student-based healthcare? Just a question, and it's not really relevant to the discussion right now.
Cal Mesa is California Mental Health Services. Cal Mesa, California Mental Health Services. It was an organization. I can't even remember what it stands for, even though I used to get monies from them. They were created before the counties really had the MHSA programs in place, and the state was looking at that pot of money and going, maybe we can get our hands on that. And so Cal Mesa formed this coalition so that they could kind of hold those pots. And they had 3 goals. Suicide prevention was one of them, student mental health, and stigma reduction were their 3 main goals. And so like I used to work for North Bay Suicide Prevention Project, and Cal Mesa funded the expansion of the North Bay from just being in Marin County to the 6 surrounding counties, a total of 6 surrounding counties. So they're involved in a lot of work like that, including the mental health. I haven't seen the grant yet, although Julie Kawahara just forwarded the proposal for me. And it's definitely, I'll pass it on to Bill, and it's definitely something that we can look at to see if there's a potential for us to work together.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to respond maybe a little bit to Mary Francis's question about ranking those the innovation projects. And what I would like to say to that is that the ranking really happened when we were looking at evaluating the projects, the 16 projects. And when we came out with the 5 top projects, we looked at both, that we all agreed that they were good projects. And then secondly, that they fit within the budget. So the top ones didn't really need to be ranked because they all fit. So we're just hoping that, they all get accepted. Okay. Was there any other questions or comments? Okay. Erica is just commenting away over here in the chats. And I think that everybody can see it. And Betsy, I would also like, I think that the board would probably also benefit from seeing the report that you're talking about. So perhaps you can pass it on to Tori so that we can all look at it.
Yeah, actually, my intent was to send it over before this board meeting and it just fell off my radar, and I actually didn't have the calendar set up for this meeting, so I'm sorry. I will definitely do that because I do know that it's important information to have.
Yes, and I also I forget who said it, but I think that Kate was addressing many of those needs before, and it was one of the programs that we lost. And the innovation projects were chosen, and that whole process started long before we were worried about COVID. It was, we were worried about fires. And actually in the middle of the whole process of evaluating the project applications, we ended up not being able to meet because everybody was working on the fires. So things have really changed in this last year. So I'm glad that Measure O passed and that we are looking at what do we do now with this new money. So it's a good thing. Okay. Can you check with Erica, Tori, and see if she actually wants to say any of this stuff that she's writing over here?
Sure.
She's just keeping going.
To talk.
Hi guys. I'm can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just incognito over here behind the scenes posting information. I just wanted to share community resources, so I don't have anything else to say. I think people can see the chat and I know they'll go in the notes, so I don't have anything additional other than I'm super excited about Measure O. I'm really grateful for our community for supporting our efforts to bring in this stream of funding so we can create more of a foundation of support with the other funding streams that we have. So that is really exciting for our community. And I'm also just very grateful what Melissa did not talk about when she talked about the innovation funding processes that happen in the middle of fires, like sandwiched in between multiple fires. So that was a pretty heavy duty lift to even have 4 innovation projects. So I just want to acknowledge the work that went into that and how important those programs are all filling gaps. They were really well thought out. And so I think that especially, you know, there was a broad range from seniors to youth. So I just feel like that was really important to note that. That was some late nights for several humans, I'm sure. And I think that's it, but good to see you all.
Okay. Okay. So Lupe Navarro said that the need is greater, especially in the, I'm assuming the Hispanic community she's talking to. So, okay. So I think that that's the, that we've heard from everybody that wanted to comment, I believe.
Can I just say?
Mary Frances?
Yeah. I just wanted to add that NAMI as a national organization has long had a program called Ending the Silence. It's a presentation about the signs and symptoms of mental illness, and there's a version for students, a version for parents, and a version for school staff. And we were doing many of these presentations in our high schools in Sonoma County prior to the budget cuts that happened, which also led to the elimination of the CAPE team. And we lost staff, and so those went quiet. but we have just resurrected them, and we've had tremendous interest from the schools, and we are doing these presentations on Zoom and to many of the parent clubs. We're having principals of many elementary schools asking us for presentations, and we've presented to over 900 students right now. It's an interactive presentation. It gives students the opportunity to learn about the signs and symptoms of mental illness and learn about what to do if they need to seek help. And it's getting rave reviews from young people. And so we're really going to launch a concerted effort to make this known after the holiday season, because we're going to be closed for a short period. But I will contact Betsy and probably also Melissa Ladresh just to get some ideas about promoting this. And we have done it with Spanish translators, and we also worked with I apologize. We worked with Santa Rosa City Schools to create a presentation which has been distributed to all the principals, and it's been already translated into Spanish. So there's a lot that is happening behind the scenes. We're just making our way.
That's great, Mary Frances. That's really exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Mary Frances, I would love to be included in that if you wouldn't mind.
Who's
Becky.
speaking? Becky. Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's great, Mary Frances.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? I am not seeing anybody. So we're going to move on to our, see, I've got two agendas here and they're a little bit different. So it looks like, it doesn't look like our peer intern, Maria, is here. So we'll go on to other reports. So so we have not voted on the data notebook. Is that true?
Correct. We discussed it in the executive meeting and it was to be voted on here.
Okay, so in the executive meeting, we went over the 2020 data notebook, and it needs to be approved and submitted. I think that Tori sent it out. So if you weren't at the executive meeting, you should have been able to take a look at it. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Okay, so Bob H. moved to approve the 2020 data notebook. And is there a second?
Come on, Bob C.
Okay, I second.
Bob C. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, abstentions? Okay, so we can go ahead and submit that. In the past, I've had to sign something, but with all of this distance stuff, I don't know if I can. So figure that part out, Tori, and send it in.
I will.
Okay. And
have
did we have an
question.
update? Oh, yes, Bob Cobb.
Does that at any point become public information on our website? I'm not aware of that.
It certainly becomes public information on the ComBoard website, and I think that absolutely it could be published on our website. It's already out there and published, and I think it would be very appropriate to put it on our website. So I don't think that needs approval. I think that just can happen, Tori. However, wherever it goes, you can figure out how to get that.
I will take care of it.
Thank you for asking the question, Bob.
Sure.
An update from Pam, Program Assessment Matrix. So, Bob Hale, do you have anything to say on that?
I sent I think, Tori, you sent the forms around, didn't you? And didn't get any feedback. I think the next step is just and develop a process, since I have to be by Zoom, but develop a list of organizations which we want to site visit, if you would, via Zoom. I'd run that by Bill to just see if that's a logical framework and categories, and then do it. I mean, arrange it. I have some ideas how to operationalize it, but that's all I'm waiting for. I didn't get any input, so I guess they're okay.
So I thought that that it looked good with the addition that at the executive committee meeting, I asked you to put in a question about smoking policies.
Oh, yes.
So if you could put that in.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so Bill, if you can work with Bob to come up with a list of places that you think might be appropriate to try to set up some Zoom visits.
Sure.
Thank you. So I'm going to leave that in the two of you, your capable hands. And the jail mental health services.
I think Carol can provide an update or communication with a new lieutenant. Do you want to summarize that for the group?
Yeah, Robert H., myself and Mary Francis have been continuing with our next steps, and one of which is to establish who the next person is to communicate with at the jail. And Sid McCauley gave us the name of Robert Travelstead. So we're in the process.
He's Bob T.
Bob T. Yeah, another Bob. So we're trying to connect with him, and the real focus is on service provision as opposed to the physical structure. The physical structure of the jail is under a different lieutenant, and so yeah, so that's really where we're at. And then the other piece is that we're trying to connect with people who've been through the jail process, but we haven't really decided on exactly how we will do that. So yeah, we will keep you posted.
You have a list of questions, right, Carol?
We do have a list of questions, and I've actually just been through the CASRA training or retraining, because I have already done the training for a peer support specialist, and one of the trainers runs an agency down in Los Angeles who does a lot of probably their main function is to help people reintegrate into the community after a prison stay. So we can, yeah, so yeah, we're moving forward, but we'll keep you posted. Yeah.
Okay. And Carol, I know you're watching the legislative details for us and have already talked to us about those two bills, but I think that we should put right here in this space legislative updates for future agendas. So if you can put that on, Tori, so that we don't forget to ask Carol what she's seeing, that would be great.
And I can let you know that the SB 803, which is the peer certification, there is a work group forming around Campro. They have MHSA funding for the next 3 years to do the peer advocacy. So they have their project program is called LEAD, and I think we're on to our third meeting now, and it'll be slow going. I think it's a parallel process, and perhaps Bill, you can let us know if anything comes out of the behavioral health directors arena, I'm assuming it's going to be slow, and it'll be about trying to find funds to make it happen.
Mhm. Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. So, any other reports that I've missed? Okay, seeing nothing there. Need to go on to board planning. So, our biggest planning is that we need to talk about the retreat. And Tori put out a doodle poll to see when people were available, and a whopping 3 of us responded. So,
4, I just got in.
okay. So I think that probably date-wise, before there were 3 people available on the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd, that would be. And I don't know what you said, Becky, but were you available the 16th?
I am. I guess I was just thinking a little more globally in the responses. I think there was an offer for like a January 30th date as well. I couldn't remember, but just, you know, given the time between meetings, between executive meeting, board meeting, etc., that it might just be best to find a date that we could all potentially agree on that might be later rather than sooner, so that we have time to prep for the retreat and make it the most useful and beneficial for everyone.
Right. And I did not see the responses that I saw positive were a little bit earlier. So, you know, the date is something that we can agree on after people have had a chance to please look at that doodle poll and tell us your availability, because at this point, and we can just decide on the date once we get a little bit more information, but I think for now that we should probably pick one of those dates, and I don't have the possible dates up, but if you know, that's a good idea, Becky, that if we did it a little bit later, although I think it's important to have, we're all supposed to watch the Laura Porter webinars. There's 3 of them. We're supposed to do it by January 1st. And I don't want that to be too old when we have our retreat, which is why I was thinking mid-month instead of the end. So, Carol?
I have the dates in front of me if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so it's the January 2nd, which I think is a bit close to January 1st. There's January 9th, January 16th. They're all Saturdays. January 23rd, January 30th, February 20th.
The February 20th was an incorrect one.
Oh.
It was supposed to be February 2nd.
2nd, okay.
Okay. So,
and I would just like to add, Kathy, I'm sorry, I know we had January 1st, but to watch those 3 videos and webinars, I would just like to be a realist that it's the holidays. And even though I've participated in all 3, I would like to refresh myself in all 3. And I feel like by January 1st, for me, would be difficult to accomplish. So I understand what you're saying about gap between watching the videos and having the retreat, but I would just like put on the table, are we all realistic going to watch the video the 1st of January? No shame, no blame, no pointing fingers.
Okay, so yes, Bob Cobb.
I have a thought.
Yes.
Because a lot of times an email may slip past people, could Tori be requested to send out another, a repeat doodle, but with on the subject line indicate it's a resend, and also include within that email the links for the 3 videos. So it kind of wraps everything together.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll work, but I can put the link in the chat box right now if you want.
That would be good, but I also like the idea of Tori sending it out with an email. Because sometimes it's easier to look at an email. So can you do that, Tori?
Yes, I will go ahead and resend the doodle. And then if Carol would send me the link to the videos, I can go ahead and incorporate it to the email.
Okay, perfect. And
Thank you.
I will remind people that if you look up Rhonda, that the very last email she sent to us was a link to the videos. So that's making it easier for me to find them. Okay, so if you can respond to the doodle poll, and we'll pick a date, and I'm not going to say I want you to watch the videos, before the date that we pick, but I would like for everybody to attempt to watch them by the 1st. It's a good goal to have. If we pick a date later in the month, definitely watch them, within 2 weeks of that date. For sure, watch them. So the second thing about the retreat, the retreat is it's going to be somewhat complicated. But Becky and Betsy and I did talk with Sarah Rock about about being a facilitator, and we had discussed her before. The quote that she came in with was for more than half of our annual budget, and which I felt was too much. So I suggested that she consider, rethinking her scope of work and coming back with a lower figure. And she has, at this point, not responded. The amount that I gave her was still higher, than we have ever paid in the past. So we have some choices to make about facilitators. And at this point, we have, I believe, people who are good facilitators as members of the board. So we could choose to do the retreat ourselves if we agreed to, abide by somebody within the board facilitating. Or I could go back to Susan Wilson, I think her name was, that facilitated before. She was very reasonable. She, I think, charged just $250. And I think that Sarah will be significantly more than that. So I need some direction from the board on what to do about the retreat and the facilitating of it. Carol?
Yeah, I think I feel somewhat responsible in that I did recommend Sarah Rock, and I think she is amazing. But I believe that her fee is more than what the mental health board can afford. I do know that Betsy and Becky have also been through the process and seen the movies. So we have some of that background. I'm not sure If between us we could come up with some, talking points or some open-ended questions that we could put out to the rest of the mental health board. But I'm also very open to, going back to the tried and true facilitator if, she's more cost effective.
Well, I think that there's a couple ways to look at it. One is we will be looking at, if we all look at the videos, the webinars, then we will be coming into the meeting with a shared base of information. And I think that we are thinking that the focus of the retreat is really to look at what are our next steps and how to use the information in the webinars. And not having seen them, I'm not going into it with any preconceived notions of what it will lead us to, but I know that the three of you have seen them, and I think that it's that we really do need to go look at what our next steps are. And even just tonight, we have talked about 3 things that we'll probably want to be discussing. The 2 assembly bills that you spoke of, Carol, and I know that that racial inequity is also something that we need to be discussing. We've given it lip service up till now, but no focus. So I don't know that an outside facilitator is going to be any better than us at this point. We've needed outside facilitators in the past because we didn't have direction going into the retreat, and we needed somebody to shape the meeting. And I'm not sure that that's the issue this time around. I think that there's some really competent people on the board. So, Bob, do you have an opinion or a statement?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to start out. I'd like a reminder of how long we're planning to, how long the retreat will be on that given day, whatever day it turns out to be. I think that has a certain implication as to who we bring in. But on top of that, and for some reason, I was thinking we were on. Seems like a long time on Zoom, but maybe not. But I feel confident that if the board watches the videos and we have the agreement of Becky and Betsy to support us in our retreat process, that I'd be happy to go along that direction. But if you could answer also what's the duration of the retreat as it's planned now?
I think we agreed that 3 hours sitting in front of a computer was a lot, was enough. Although I don't know if when we meet in person, it's longer. But since we're sitting in front of a computer, we're not taking snack breaks and all of that. So I'd say maybe 3.5 hours at the most.
Kathy, have we identified goals of the retreat? What are the goals we want to accomplish? Have we concretized that?
Yeah, I think that we want to look at next steps that and I think that either Carol or Becky or Betsy know more about what's in the webinars, but I saw small little snippets of it, and it looks like there are some suggestions for moving forward with what do you do with the information about trauma-informed care once you have that information? Am I right?
Yeah.
And Betsy and Carol. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. If I may jump in, So I will say this, that I am advocating for Sarah to facilitate the conversation. I understand, and we did have conversation with Sarah around her price point. She is costly because she is an expert at what she does. And she works at county, state level policy making and is truly informed around ACEs and how to incorporate trauma-informed care and ideology into policy making. And so us as a group being policy advisors, if you will, I feel like Sarah is the potentially the correct choice. I also know that Betsy has brought forth Daniela Dominguez, and she is excellent in her field as well in terms of, again, issues in equity and disparities and DEI, and making sure that we are looking at all of those. And I believe that we need to. So I am certainly not saying that Daniela is not also a good option. But I do believe that, Kathy, in our last conversation with Sarah, she was willing to come down in the work, having not understood that some of the logistics in a public meeting where that notes were already being taken, plans would already be somewhat pre-made because, Tori would be available to take notes and be able to hand out reports and so on and so forth. So I believe, when we left that conversation with Sarah, she had come down considerably, closer to the $1,000 mark with some flexibility. And I understand she hasn't responded to you directly. But I feel like if she is in that ballpark, if we look at what that money is used for as a board, which is seemingly predominantly to pay costs for individuals of the board to attend trainings or meetings or so forth. If you take 15 and you divide that into 1,000, that's a pretty small number per person that I think if we're looking at a half of a Saturday, the dollar amount seems to be equitable in that kind of consideration. And I personally am excited to be a part of the board at this time when Measure O obviously is a brand new opportunity where there will be funding streams and policy making decisions and contracts and other kinds of programs to either resurrect or create or innovate. And I feel like this is a wonderful opportunity for someone outside of ourselves. While yes, I do feel like we are capable within us, but I think it does bring some objectivity to light when there is an outside party to facilitate. And if we were to have all 15 or 14 members at the table, I do think that we do need someone that understands the public sector, understands policymaking, understands ACEs and trauma-informed care and how to work that into equitable change within policy. So I'm in favor of Sarah, and knowing that that she is willing to come down in cost, that it won't be half of our budget. I just want to make sure that other board members are aware of that and the financial feasibility that it now looks like if you break it down per person, what that would look like if any one of us were to say that we wanted to attend a training and wanted mental health board to cover that cost. So that is my that's my point at this time.
Okay, so yeah, so it's what she originally proposed was well above the 1,000, and the 1,000 is what I said that was the maximum, really, that she left it, that she was going to look at whether she felt like she could do what she felt she needed to do with this. for that rate. And so I haven't heard back from her, but that was kind of where we left it. I want to be sure that if we decide to follow the, if we decide to go deeper into the racial inequity part, and Betsy's facilitator, Daniela, wants to work with us, that we have the money to do that as well. So at this point, we're not spending money on any other thing. So it is money that we have available this year probably, and maybe not another year. So anybody have any discussion on that? Thank you, Becky, for your Bob.
Thanks, Becky. I just wanted to give, I know there are a number of new board members. I just wanted to give a tidbit of history on this. The reason the board decided to pursue this at all was it came out of, in my recollection, came out of the prior year's data notebook, and the question that indicated, the level of training that the mental health board in our county had received on ACEs. And we discovered that very few of us had either been exposed to ACEs at all or had gone through training. So that precipitated our interest. I would think that if that was our initial goal, and we're only going to be meeting 3.5 hours, that should remain the focus at least this time. And as I think, as Kathy said, a subsequent retreat can be expanded off that on equity and so on.
Okay, so does anybody have more to say on which direction we should go in this? Wait, Bob, the facilitation idea, do you have an opinion on that, Bob?
Oh, I'd like to hear others. I kind of stated what I was comfortable with at this point for us to watch the videos and have some direction from within the group. That's kind of where I'm at this point still.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I think this is Carol. I think there's no doubt about it that Sarah Rock works very closely with Laura Porter. She knows her personally. She's done a lot of work with her before. I think the struggle really at this point is just being realistic about cost. So I absolutely agree with everything that Becky has said. I guess it's just, being fiscally responsible. Is this the best use of our money? And I'm not sure. Perhaps we need a short executive at some point to make the final decision.
Okay. I'm not sure how to set that up because it would be a meeting. I mean, we would have to. We'd have to post it. So I would like to make it, I would like for people to give the go ahead to, yes, Bob.
I'm sorry to keep breaking in, but we want to have some kind of plan B since you haven't heard back from Sarah. If she declines, maybe it's just a matter of scheduling or whatever. But if that doesn't pan out, and that if that's what the board is in general approves, what's the alternative if that doesn't come to fruition?
Bob Hales.
No, I like Becky's idea to use, is it Sarah? And we could outline exactly, I mean, not exactly, but outline generally what we would want from her, and she could then provide, this is what she would be able to provide for a certain budget. I don't know if that's possible, but this is how we don't want to spend more than this. What if you were to do this, what can you provide in this limited amount of money.
So that's kind of where Becky and I were on the phone with her, and we kind of left it with, for $1,000, what could you provide?
Okay.
So that's, if people are comfortable with, if she comes back with a plan that's reasonable for that amount of money, that leaves us $3,000 still to, hire somebody for another, retreat, or send somebody somewhere that's pretty much all we've been using the money for in the past. And I mean, we're not buying snacks or anything to feed us, now. So
What wasn't in the past, Kathy, wasn't in the past, was used for travel, and don't anticipate any travel or any
Yes.
meetings between now and June 30 when the end of the budget.
I don't think there's going to be much of that.
So we have more flexibility in the budget than we
Yes, we
normally
do.
would. So even if it was more than 1,000, it wouldn't be that much of a problem, because what else are we going to spend the money on?
Good point. Anybody else?
I think I'm in agreement with just about everything that said. But I do feel that moving forward, it'd be good for us to have some form of budget in mind, so that when we seek out outside providers to come in and do a service for the mental health board, to have that in mind and send that out to them so that they can provide a package, perhaps. And I do think if we were to, go with Sarah Rock on this, it'd be really great for us. And I feel like we is part of, our responsibility as far as being aware of, racial justice and how we play a role in policymaking. In that regard, I think if we can devote some time to that, with the proper moderator, would be great.
Yeah, I do agree with Betsy. Like, if we were to put a portion of this to Sarah and she was agreeable, then there would be money available for Donnie to be able to work with us as well. I think it's the best of both worlds.
Okay, so with the people that are left here, are we in agreement then to, if Sarah comes up with something reasonable or in the vicinity of $1,000, that we can go forward with that? And then part of our planning at the retreat will be to determine possible next steps with to include the racial inequity, and possibly we would be having a second retreat type thing with, Betsy's presenter, Daniela. Does that sound reasonable?
Mm-hmm. I think so. And I think because of the kind of it would be good perhaps as part of our future planning as a board to look at our budget and have a plan up front as to what that might look like. I think this year we've had, COVID and everything's been online. We really have had nothing to spend the money on, but, we have a very small budget. And I think it would be a topic of conversation that I think would be very important as to, how we can maximize the use of that small amount of money moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we, by the same token, we don't want to not spend it if there's an appropriate expense.
Right.
And Kathy, for my own clarity, where does this money come from? Is this just magical fairy money that comes down from the MHSA? I don't know. Where does this money come from?
I am not sure exactly, but I think that the county behavioral health system just gives us a budget. And this is how much money they've allotted for us. And I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but I know that historically we've had about this much money. People have gone to conferences, trainings, and that sort of thing. But they have had to travel. So, you know, some of it was travel expenses, some of it was conference expenses. So,
Yeah, because the kind of things I could imagine, you know, that we might invest in are, you know, the rights to show particular movies, you know, like, I don't know, there's a few educational movies that I think, you know, like Peluma Healthcare District were using. Resilience is one that comes to mind, but the mental health board perhaps could consider, you know, having resources that we could use. Just one idea.
okay. So I'm going to take it that I will talk with Sarah, and Betsy and Becky and Carol have all been, you know, we'll possibly talk with her as we'll come up with a plan for that. If she could come in around $1,000. So, and then we will determine at the retreat next steps, which may or may not include, you know, going with Daniela for a second retreat around racial disparities. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Great. Okay. Any disagree with that? Okay. So we were supposed to, I don't know if we still have enough people for a vote, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we do. The jail summary report, we were going to vote on whether to release that publicly. So
I'd like to make a motion to release that publicly.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so Tori, you can release that. Was that, Michael, were you wedding? Did you?
Just abstained.
Abstain. Okay, 1 abstention. Perfect. Okay, and then we're supposed to be doing presenting the annual report. The date has been changed to January 26th. So if somebody can let Tori know if they are available on January 26th to do that. I teach on Tuesday, so I can't.
I'm available, Kathy, and I've been attending a few of those meetings already.
I am putting your name down, Becky, and I'll get with you and we'll get that figured out. Okay.
And also, Kathy, excuse me, Becky will need to submit a summary prior to the meeting, but I can connect with both of you with that information.
Perfect.
Thanks, Tori.
Okay.
How early does that need to happen prior to the meeting?
I believe it's 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, and just a reminder, if you haven't completed the ethics training, you need to do that. And Tori, if you can send out the link to that. And we're always over. I think that's it. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yay!
Go Bobs. Go Bobs.
Okay. Have a great vacation.
You too. All right.